time has come to admit that yes, I actually am the admin for the Facebook page Russ Abbott's Atmosphere for Xmas #1, and I have been for the last 13 years. Still time, Russ. And while we're making confessions, I should be honest about this channel. My second favourite child. This channel isn't really about balsam bashing, and secretly, it never was. This channel is about what happens when your brain gets so utterly fried by the scale of environmental disaster that you start yelling at whoever is the nearest person holding a gimbal. But as I think I made clear in the very first episode, I'm not an expert in anything. In this series, I'm willing to admit that I don't know everything. But it's not just Himalayan balsam that I know nothing about. There's countless other topics out there about which I know absolutely nothing, some of which I can't even spell. Being an expert in nothing, but having a solid 2-1 in my media degree, it was time to adapt. So I single-handedly invented a new technique in which, rather than just talking, I would go out there and ask other people questions. And I got some great advice. So here is my top 3 bits of conservation or outdoorsy type advice 2025. It was really hard to actually pick a top 3. There was so much great advice and like general good vibes to choose from. Nonetheless, we're going to start with Dave the Plant Man. We're speaking at Hayhall Country Park in Wigan, which I'm going to give a 12 out of 14. It's lovely, but it's got a bit of a balsam problem that needs sorting out. Anyway, I felt like Dave was speaking to me personally when he was explaining that there's no such thing as daft questions.
When people ask me questions, there's no such thing as a daft question. If you don't know what you don't know. And so if somebody asks you something that, which we consider pretty basic, if you don't know it, I will tell you. Absolutely. And that's what I try and do. I try my best to get people going on plants, even if it's like growing an acorn, growing an apple pip, it doesn't matter. Once you get that bug, and you've got success from that, then the next thing you start buying a few plants and then you've got your own little space. You can create your own little bit of heaven and get away from everything else.
Excellent advice as always from Dave there. Dave's the sort of person that you could listen to talk about plants all day long. It makes you sort of wonder, why wouldn't everyone just love the outdoors?
We have a runner, close that gate, please.
Yeah. Loads of studies suggest that looking at green stuff is good for you, even if you're looking at it on a screen. That's why we film these outdoors. But sometimes I think outdoorsy people get stuck in a bit of a bubble. It's easy to forget that all of this is just a privilege. That's why I asked Kelly that exact question. Kelly's from Groundwork Greater Manchester, and we spoke at Clayton Vale Nature Reserve, which is just beautiful. 14 out of 14, that's genuinely beneficial.
And we all saw that in COVID, didn't we? And all, everyone was like, "Oh, we're on the same storm." And it's like, yeah, but you've got like a nature reserve on your doorstep, and these other people haven't. They're stuck in like a high rise in the city, and that's a very different experience.
Absolutely.
And we find people won't connect because they don't know it exists, or they're scared of it, or whether that be culturally kind of embedded, or whether it be like, oh, that's where dangerous youths hang out, or people hang out, or they just, no one's ever sort of taken them there and gone, oh, do you know about this? And we quite regularly do, I often do loads of work with schools as well, or have done in the past, and they kind of like, I didn't even know this existed. I'm like, it's on your doorstep, how do you not know?
Loads of people don't have access to nature, like so many. In fact, Britain recently ranked 55th out of 61 in a study in access to nature that was led by Professor Miles Richardson at the University of Derby. And if they can understand that in Derby, then surely a young upstart from Nottingham can figure it out. Just kidding, Derby, I'm not young. But why is any of this important? That's the main question, and I asked exactly that to everybody. But to find out the answer, we're going to go back to episode 1 with Abby and Ruth, where we chatted at Sale Water Park, which I'm going to give a 13 out of 14 because it's lovely, but it gets really busy in summer.
found is I've had a lot of them tell me that they really like going to parks that they've never even knew existed, because they discover all these like tiny green spaces around them that you might not know are there, or they're a bit off the beaten track. And yeah, you just bond over this shared love of nature, and they're giving up their free time to come and improve this park. So they're obviously enjoying it, and they're getting a lot of like well-being out. And you'd make like friends in the group. You learn more about people's history and stuff. Like we had a whole therapy session when we were balsam bashing last Wednesday. So
amazing.
It all got very deep.
Really?
Yeah, it was great.
Deep and
We were
meaningful.
talking about childhoods and parents and all sorts. It was
And
really good.
that wouldn't have happened if they weren't out
No,
balsam
exactly.
bashing.
Yeah, and it's quite a nice one, balsam bashing, because it's mindless in a way. So you sort of you're doing an activity, but you're free to talk about
It is
whatever you want
exercise
to talk
too,
about.
right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So that's my advice, and by my advice, I mean the opinions of others. And that was 2025 for me. But 2025 was also the year when hundreds of millions of dollars were poured into research for geoengineering. Geoengineering is spraying stuff into the sky to reflect the sun. And I think that's nonsense, and I think we need some better news than that. And as a matter of fact, what I think we want is a happy atmosphere. No particulate matter being sprayed into space to reflect the sun, no more fossil fuels, no more pollution, a happy atmosphere for all. Russ Abbott's atmosphere for Xmas #1. Russ Abbott's atmosphere for Xmas #1 for all time.
Oh, what an atmosphere. I love a party with a happy atmosphere. So let me take you there, and you and I'll be dancing